Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're trying out one very hyped up product and one very much not hyped up product. I'm talking about the Fenty Skin Tint and the new Benefit face palette. So Benefit released three face palettes this year instead of the one bigger one that they usually release. I have the one from last year, that was the Cheek Stars Reunion Tour. This is what they usually look like, with 5 products inside. It usually has the Hoola bronzer and a cookie highlighter or some sort of variation. I believe in 2019 they released 2 of these big palettes. And this year they took a completely different route and they released 3 small palettes with 4 shades in them. So I picked up the one in Fire Queen. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews or mixed opinions about these palettes. So there's a fire, an earth and an air, I think, and there wasn't a water one that threw some people off. And also all palettes contain sort of the same shade range, so none of them contain Hoola Light or Hoola Caramel. I picked the one that had the most shades I didn't already own. So I picked this one and it has Hoola. But this Hoola does seem to be a little bit lighter than the one in my Cheek Stars palette, but we're going to swatch them. And then I think there are 2 blushes, Starlet and Solstice. These 2, and then a highlighter in Blaze. This is the bronzer. Yeah, I definitely say this is a little bit more pink and a little bit lighter, so that's perfect. This is the matte blush. This is the shimmery blush. This one feels a little bit dry actually, but it looks pretty. And then the highlighter feels a lot creamier. And I think that's just about going to work as a highlighter for me. It's a little bit on the edge. And then I'll swatch the Hoola from my Cheek Stars palette. See, that's a lot darker. So maybe they did sneakily put in a Hoola Light in my palette. I mean, this is swatched twice and this is swatched only once, and you can clearly see the difference. This one is a little bit dark for me, so this is perfect. I believe they do this more often, that they call a shade by the same name, but that's actually a different shade. Morgan Turner made a couple of videos about these bigger face palettes in the past, so you could check those out to see if I'm right. Then of course everyone has seen the Skin Tint by Fenty. I wasn't going to pick this up, but then I ran out of my usual lighter coverage foundation, and I found that the Dior one still had quite a bit of coverage. And I wanted something that would set down a little bit more, so that wasn't too glowy. And this one checked all those boxes. I have it in the shade 1. I tried it yesterday and I think it's a good shade. It's a little bit too pink, but at least it's not too dark because they're always too dark. So I figured I'd try the lightest shade, and if in worst case scenario I would just mix it with something else. But I don't think I have to. Alright, that's enough talking. I'm going to apply these products to my face now. I'm just going to put this on without a primer. It worked fine yesterday. I don't think I would usually wear a primer with something like this. It's supposed to be light. I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand. It's quite runny, which is what you would expect from a skin tint. And I am going to apply it with a brush. That's just my usual way of applying things. What you immediately notice is that it spreads very easily and it blends into your skin with no effort. So it seems to be just a little bit too light for me. But compared to my neck, it's actually perfect. I just have a lot of redness that makes my face look a little bit darker, but it's actually not that dark. It smells nice, it smells fresh. I was actually expecting there to be no scent at all, but it's not completely scentless. It smells a bit like sun lotion or moisturizer. I'm going to need a little bit more for my forehead. And what I like about this product, yesterday I put on 2 light layers. Today I'm just putting on 1 thicker layer, and that doesn't really seem to matter. So it blends out very easily. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it doesn't completely dry down, but it does sort of feel velvety. It doesn't stay extremely luminous, but there is some natural sheen. Some parts of my face do look a little bit more dry. Like my forehead is actually a little bit more dry than the rest of my face. The rest of my face has a normal skin type. But I do love the look of this. I love the velvety, smooth look. It's kind of a luminous matte, I would say. So in the direct light, I have 1 light here and then natural light coming from over there. You do see a little bit of sheen. But for the most part, it's matte. And it feels that way too, but it doesn't completely dry down. So that's what I was caused to believe when I saw other people's reviews, but it doesn't. It stays just a little bit tacky. And yesterday I didn't set it down, I just set down my concealer. I'm going to do the same thing today because we are going to do a wear test. And I want to see if the Benefit products apply easily on top. By the way, this foundation comes in 25 shades, ranging from very light to very dark. But I do think there are only 3 light shades, so the jump from the lightest to the second to lightest is actually quite big. Usually I would go with the one that wasn't so pinky, so 1 up. But that one was immediately quite dark. So I think the darker shades are more proportionate for their number. But they do have a big shade card online. It comes with 32 milliliters, which is 1.08 fluid ounce. That's okay. That's just a little bit more than a usual foundation, but not that much more. So I'm back. I was slightly disturbed here by my boyfriend, so I just finished most of my makeup. I'm wearing the new Viseart palette. A review of that one is already up. I'm wearing just a little bit of Too Faced concealer and a little bit of my pressed meteorites powder. I'm wearing the Lancome gel in my eyebrows. And I was just about to apply this new lipstick by Huda. I figured I could just throw it in here since it's going to match my eye look, I think. So Huda released their cream lipsticks not too long ago. And I was in the market for a nice new brown lipstick. So I bought the shade Gold Digger. And I thought we could just apply it together. That's nice. That's a beautiful shade and a very nice formula. This looks amazing. I'm very happy with this one. I was in doubt because I knew I wanted something from the brown family, but I wasn't sure if I wanted the palest nude or something more in the medium dark range. And I went with the medium one and I'm very happy. I really like this. Alright, now let's get into the Benefit palette. There's a little shade card with it that explains in which order you have to apply these things. So yeah, it says shade 4, Blaze, is a highlighter. And then 2 and 3 are both blushes. Yeah, I guess I already knew that. So we're just going to start with this hula shade, which is a bit lighter. I'm just taking my regular slanted bronzer brush. There is a nice mirror in here. Oh, 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 oh. So remember, my base is unset apart from just a little bit underneath my eyes. So my whole cheek area is not completely dried down. See, there is a little bit of foundation on my fingers after touching my face. So I'm picking up quite a bit, and let's see. I guess it applies just a little bit patchy, but it does blend out to be less patchy. I really like this shade, for me at least. So in the 3 options there were 2 that had a bronzer, which was Hoola, and then there was 1 that only had blush and a highlighter. And I don't think the other Hoola shade was a lot darker, but correct me if I'm wrong. That would mean that these palettes are really not suited for many skin tones. Because, as I mentioned, I'm wearing the palest shade in the Fenty foundation, and this bronzer is perfect for me. So I guess a little bit darker would also work. But not that much darker. So I do hope I'm wrong and that there is a darker Hoola shade in the other palette. Please, someone let me know if you did try it. So I'm building this up quite a bit just to see what the color is really like. And I really like it. It's a lot more pink and a lot less yellow than the original Hoola. That really works out well for me when a bronzer is just a little bit pink. Putting a little bit around my nose. A little bit underneath my lip. Now I'm just going to take my clean powder brush and go around the edges a little bit. This is what I always do with a bronzer lately. Just because I'm so pale and I want everything to blend in. But this looks really nice. It sort of has a bronzer effect for me. Yes, this is amazing. The bronzer is matte, by the way. There's really no sheen at all. But I like that. Alright, let's go into the blushes. I'm going to start with the matte one. And then I'm just going to add the shimmery one a little bit higher on top. So this one is called Starlet. This is what it looks like. Just picking up a normal amount. It looks nice. It's not intensely pigmented, but for a blush it is quite pigmented. So if you don't like a heavy blush, I would tread with a bit more caution than I did. I like this. Really matches the bronzer very well. This one does seem to have a little bit of a sheen. But that could just be the foundation underneath. Alright, so I'm going into Solstice, which is this one. Which is very large. I guess for some people it could be a highlighter, but then you could never use this Hoola bronzer. It has to be a blush. I'm just going to take a little bit and put it a little bit higher on my cheek. Okay, so this is quite dark. I do like it. This one is actually a lot shinier than the other one. Alright, all that's left is the highlighter, which is called Blaze. And since the other one had Cookie in it, I would own 2 of the 4 shades already, and I thought that would be a shame. But I am a little bit worried that Blaze isn't light enough for me. I'm going to pick up quite a bit on my Anastasia Beverly Hills brush. Let's see. It's not incredibly shiny. It looks a little bit like MAC Postmodernist Peach, if you know that shade. So it is a little bit peachy, little bit of pink in there. It's light enough, but it's not incredibly light. I think on my nose it's actually a little bit too dark. It looks like I have blush on my nose. So maybe for me, this is more of a cheek topper. It looks alright. I like Cookie as a highlighter more. So keep that in mind. The bronzer is actually very light and the highlighter is just not light enough for my skin tone. I'm not sure how it is with the other palettes, but that is something to consider. Oh, can I just say, I really like this packaging. I also really like the bigger palettes, but they do come with a brush, so effectively you only have 1 extra shade. So I kind of like these smaller ones more. One last peek. I'm just going to remove my ears because the makeup is now complete. This is my finished look. I do like all the products I used. So I like how my cheeks came out. I know they're a little bit heavy, but you could always go over with a little bit of powder. I really like this foundation. It is a little bit more glowy than I was expecting, but I like the shade and I like the feeling. And thus far it hasn't settled down in my smile lines or something like that. So I'll report back to you in a couple of hours and then at the end of the night, and then we'll see how this all holds up. I'm back for my first check-in. It is now 4 o'clock. I finished my makeup about 4 hours ago, but I finished my foundation about around 11:30. So it's been 4.5 hours. And I just thought it was time for a little check-in. Because as you can see, this foundation has gotten quite a bit glowier than it was when I just applied it. And I do think it's for the better. So my gripe with this was that when I just applied it, it looked a little bit powdery, but it still was a little bit wet to the touch. So that's not something I like. I like it to be actually dry, and then it may look a little bit dry, but that's okay with me. Now it resembles the way it feels. So it looks like a more natural finish, I would say, especially here on my forehead, but also here on my cheeks. I didn't put any highlight or anything there. Also didn't put down any powder. So I think next time I would put down a little bit of powder around the entirety of my face. But I actually think this looks really nice. Around 1 hour after I put it on, I started noticing that it clung a little bit to the edges of my nose. But now, after a couple of hours, I think that's actually disappeared. And it didn't settle in my smile lines or in my forehead. And the Benefit products also still look really nice. You can definitely see that my nose is a little bit too dark. So that highlight shade is a little bit too dark for me, but still, The cheek products look really nice. I'm curious to see what will happen in a couple of hours, because if this trend continues, I may have to use a little bit of powder, and I don't usually have to do that, but we'll see what happens. I'm back, it's now 8:30, so I've been wearing this foundation for about 9 hours, and I just wanted to show you what it ended up looking like. So I don't think it changed a lot from the halfway mark. It did fade a little bit around my chin and around my nose, but not so much that it's not there anymore. It's just little signs of wearing. And it did get a little bit more glowy, especially on my forehead, but I still think it looks nice. I would say that this foundation wears pretty well. On other people I've seen it staying a little bit more dry, so I don't know what happened there. I'm usually not a very oily person, but lately my foundations have become a little bit more glowy during the day. Also, the Benefit products still look pretty nice, especially the blush is still very bright. And also the bronzer and the highlight, they're still very much visible. So I'd say this was a very successful wear test. And that brings me to the end of the video. In summation, whether I would recommend these products. For the Benefit palette, it all depends on your skin tone, because the highlight is a little bit too dark for me, but the bronzer is perfect. So if you're a little bit darker than me, this would probably be perfect, but if you're a lot darker, then I don't think this would still work for you. But maybe the other one would. And of course, for the skin tint, the skin tone doesn't matter. But the skin type probably does. So I think people with really dry skin wouldn't really like this foundation. But I think if you have normal combination skin, then this would be perfect for you, if you don't mind it staying just a little bit tacky during the day. Next time I'm just going to put a little bit of powder over it, and I think that will solve my problem, and I usually do that. I just didn't today because of the wear test. So that's my opinion on these products. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.